Have you ever done something kind, something so small you almost forgot about it? But then, years later, that one small act comes back to change everything? This is the story of a king who learned that kindness, no matter how small, never goes to waste. A story that proves even the mightiest crown shines brighter when worn with compassion. Once upon a time, in a land surrounded by golden deserts and tall stone walls, there lived a mighty king named Arav. He ruled a vast kingdom, rich, proud, and powerful. People feared him, not because he was cruel, but because he was distant. He believed kindness was a weakness. To him, a good king was one who punished wrongs, not one who forgave them. Every morning he would stand on his palace balcony, watching peasants bow before him. He thought respect is power, but he never realized love is greater than fear. One scorching afternoon, when the sun burned like fire above the capital, the guards brought a poor old man to the palace gate. He was dusty, tired, and holding a small clay pot. "Your Majesty," the guards said, "this man begs for food. Should we drive him away?" The king looked at him, weak, trembling, almost invisible in his eyes. He sighed. "Give him a coin and send him off." But as the guards were about to leave, something unusual happened. The man looked up and said softly, "My king, may I offer you this gift?" The king frowned. "A gift? From you?" The man nodded and placed the small clay pot on the ground. Inside it, a single seed. "This seed," said the old man, "will grow into a tree that never dries, never dies, if watered with kindness." The court laughed. Even the guards smirked. But for some reason, King Arav didn't. He stared at that tiny seed and said, "Very well, I will keep it. Let's see if kindness can make trees grow." And with a wave of his hand, he walked away. The old man bowed and whispered, "May your heart find the water it needs, my king." Days turned into months, months into years. The seed was planted in the royal garden, but the king never visited it. He was too busy with wars, politics, and pride. His palace grew larger, his armies stronger, but his people, they grew poorer and colder. One day, during a long drought, crops began to die. Rivers dried up, hunger spread like wildfire. People left their homes in search of food. The once glorious kingdom now looked like a shadow of its past. The king ordered more soldiers, more taxes, trying to control what he couldn't. But fate had other plans. One stormy night, the king set out to inspect the borders of his land. Rain poured like tears from the sky. His horse slipped on the muddy road and threw him off. He fell and hit his head on a rock. When he woke up, he was alone. No guards, no gold, no crown, just a broken man lying in the dirt. He tried to stand, but pain shot through his body. He shouted for help, but no one came. For the first time in his life, King Arav was just Arav, hungry, cold, and afraid. Hours later, he stumbled toward a small hut at the edge of the forest. A faint light flickered inside. He knocked weakly. A woman opened the door. A poor villager with a little child clinging to her arm. "Please," he whispered, "I need help." She didn't recognize him. His royal robe was torn, his face covered in mud. But without asking questions, she helped him in. She gave him water, then bread. And when he said he had nothing to give in return, she smiled and said, "No one ever becomes poor by being kind." Her words hit him like lightning. He thought, how could someone with so little still have so much to give? That night, he slept on a straw mat, watching the child peacefully resting beside her mother. For the first time, he felt something strange in his heart, something he hadn't felt in years: peace. The next morning, as the storm cleared, the woman helped him walk to the road. Before leaving, she gave him a small pouch of seeds. "These are from my garden," she said. "Plant them when you go home. Kindness grows best when shared." He thanked her and continued his journey. Days later, soldiers found him and brought him back to the palace. The court was shocked. The king was alive, but he was not the same man anymore. The first thing he did was visit his garden, and there, right where the old man's seed had been planted, stood a tall green tree, strong, alive, unshaken by the drought. Its leaves shone under the sunlight, and birds sang on its branches. He fell to his knees and wept. He finally understood. The old man's words weren't about the tree, they were about him. From that day on, King Arav changed everything. He lowered taxes, he built wells for the poor, he opened the palace gates for travelers and villagers. And every morning he sat under that same tree, listening to people's problems, helping those in need. Soon the kingdom flourished again, not because of power, but because of kindness. The people loved him, not for his crown, but for his heart. And when someone asked him one day, "What made you change, my king?" he smiled and said, "A poor man once gave me a seed, and a poor woman watered it with kindness. I just learned how to let it grow." You see, life has a strange way of returning what we give. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, plants a seed. It may take years to grow, but when it does, it bears fruit that changes lives, including your own. So next time you can help someone, don't think twice, because maybe that one small kindness will change your fate too. This was the story of a king who learned a single act of kindness can change the destiny of an entire kingdom, and maybe even yours.